This could be a golden opportunity for the Lakers to take a flyer on a former #1 overall pick, and this potential move can add much needed defensive versatility. This gives an opportunity for JJ Redick and his staff to rejuvenate a player that once had so much promise. Evidently, things will fall in Rob Pelinka's hands, who has been killing it recently with Laker acquisitions, and I have a theory on how this move can put the Lakers over the top. What's good? I'm Okechi Apakama, and this is Lakers Digest coming at you with another video. And before we get into everything we have for you, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. And we're trying to push towards our new goal of 15,000 subscribers. I want to thank each and every one of you guys to get us to our old goal of 10,000 subscribers. You guys subscribe from far and wide, all the way from Slovenia to right here in Los Angeles. So I want to thank you guys for getting us to our original goal and now to push towards a new goal as we continue to bring you that Laker news and updates. Now, with that out of the way, let's hop straight into the topics we have for you today. As can Markelle Fultz be an option? So most of you guys remember Markelle Fultz, former #1 overall pick, and yes, he did have his struggles in Philadelphia with a bunch of injuries and just like a lot of issues internally. And then he was able to go to the Orlando Magic, where he was able to rejuvenate parts of his career and make a name for himself down there in Orlando by playing some good basketball at times. But still, injuries still plagued him from there. However, the Lakers were talking within themselves, so this is within the front office, that they were thinking about adding a Markelle Fultz to this roster as far as last summer. So this is a report here, as the Lakers reportedly were interested in free agency in Markelle Fultz. The Lakers had internal conversations about Fultz, the former the former first #1 overall pick, who hasn't lived up to his draft position, but was solid last season playing for the Orlando Magic. And so the Lakers, within their brass in the front office, was just speaking about Markelle Fultz and about the possibility of adding him to this team during the summer. And now, obviously, with the new acquisitions of Luka Doncic and Mark Williams, can a guy like Markelle Fultz fit on this roster in a very limited role? Because I do think there is a way to get the most out of a guy like Markelle Fultz. He's still only 26 years old, and there's still potential for him to get better as an NBA player. So Markelle Fultz, through all the trials and tribulations he's been through from Philadelphia to Orlando, there are still some things that ring true about Markelle Fultz, as he's a very good sized guard, about 6'4", and he has a pretty good sized wingspan. And that is very important here for a guy to note for like Markelle Fultz, as this was his combine stats, measuring it about 6'3" and a half, at about 185 pounds, and a 6'9" wingspan with about an 8'5" standing reach. So he has a pretty big NBA frame and size there for the point guard position. But I do think the Lakers could use him a bit differently, because they already have the point guards and the guards that are going to be running their offense with Luka, Austin Reaves, and LeBron James. So Markelle Fultz can more be using some of his other skills that he has on the court that he really developed in Orlando with that team and their burgeoning defensive identity. So I do think Markelle Fultz can have a role on this Laker team, but it's going to be more tuned to the defensive side of the ball and using his athletic gifts that he still has to really help the Lakers facilitate some much cleaner bench groups, because the Lakers have been playing Shake Milton in that spot, and it hasn't looked super great at all times. And the only other guard they have on the roster is Bronny James, and I don't believe he's going to be getting too much playing time, because he's not a guy that you can put in a playoff rotation. So just from a standpoint of like what we're looking at with Markelle Fultz, let's just take a look at his stats for his career, basically. So the last full season that he had was for the Orlando Magic. He only played 43 games, so the injuries are still a concern for him, but he was able to average just about 7 points there. But his best season, I would think, as a pro was the year before, where he played in 60 games and started 60 games, which is very important there. He averaged almost 30 minutes a game, had 14 points, 5.7 assists, and 3.9 rebounds to go along with 1.5 steals per game, because he was a real pesky defender there for the Orlando Magic. So that was a point in time where Markelle Fultz was able to really find something there with the Orlando Magic. And albeit they were a team at that time, trying to break ground, they did make the playoffs the next year, but they were still trying to grow as a team, as a young team, with Franz Wagner and Pablo Van Caro being very young. So those guys were trying to figure things out, and they were, thrusting in a guy like Markelle Fultz to see what they can find out from him. And Fultz has some real good defensive skills there that I think the Lakers could use on the squad right now, because the thing that they're missing is a point of attack defender, and something that the Lakers could use at pretty much a free price is getting a guy that can be a point of attack defender, can be a guy that can guard some of those bigger guys that a guy like maybe Gabe Vincent cannot guard, because albeit Gabe Vincent is a very good defender, he isn't a tall dude, so guys that can shoot over the top of him, they don't really Gabe Vincent doesn't really bother those type of dudes. So Markelle Fultz can be a guy that can make an impact on that side of the ball, because he really has some very good defensive just intangibilities, and just smarts and know-hows. He has very quick hands. The wingspan really helps him block a lot of shots for a guard, so he's a pretty good shot blocking guard for his position. But just look at some of these defensive highlights that a guy like Markelle Fultz has just in his repertoire, really. As this is, the famous, Jokic and Murray two-man game, and this is a guy like Markelle Fultz to be able to use those quick hands, really get in there and get a steal for his team. And that's some of the stuff that he can do on ball and off ball as well. He's very good at picking off bounce passes, which is like, a very unique skill to have with his wingspan and speed and size. So he was able to do stuff like that. And then just another thing that Markelle Fultz can do is chase downs. He is one of those guards that is fast enough to get back into the play. Like, take a look at this play right here by Markelle Fultz, as he comes in and just swats Ayo Dosunmu right there. And that's the skills that he has, and NBA teams could be using here, but he hasn't played on a team so far. I don't know the reasoning why a guy like Markelle Fultz isn't on an NBA team. It could be, he's not in NBA shape or not ready to go. But I would hope that the Lakers can bring him in for a workout and see what a guy like Markelle Fultz can do for your team, because that gets me to my next point here, as the Laker needs with their open roster spot. So the Lakers recently, in a trade for Mark Williams, it was a 2-for-1. So they traded out Dalton Connect and Cam Reddish. And Cam Reddish, he did have some of his moments here for the Los Angeles Lakers, but evidently he just couldn't stay on the floor because of what he was doing on the offensive side of the ball wasn't really good enough, because there wasn't anything that he can do particularly well. The catch and shoot was not particularly well, and he didn't really shoot that at a high volume, albeit he did give us pretty good point of attack defense when he was out there on the floor. And that is now a skill that is really graspably needed, with only just Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt being the only two real guys that can be a good point of attack defender. So I think Markelle Fultz can be thrust into that situation. I do have some offensive concerns, obviously, with him shooting the basketball, but he is a very good playmaker. So, and he's a good downhill presence, because he's a guy who can get to the rim and finish with either hand. So that is something that can change things for a guy like Fultz, because he's able to get to the rim at will with his speed and athleticism. So you can kind of use that as counterbalance as a little bit. Maybe you can use him as a screener in some spots, because LeBron and Luka as well like to use screen a guy like Markelle Fultz, who's going to be guarding some point guards. So to get some switches and some likable, favorable matchups. So there are ways to get around Markelle Fultz and his non-shooting. And he was shooting a little bit better for the Orlando Magic, but still not to the point where you would like, especially for a playoff ready rotation that the Lakers are trying to build here. So, with this open roster spot, I do think it is that point of attack defender. We saw them recently sign James Goodwin to or Jordan Goodwin to a two-way deal, and he's a point of attack defender, similar elk. He's been playing with their G League team, playing pretty well actually for their G League team. So that is what the Lakers are kind of looking for with this last roster spot. Just a guy that can go out there and guard some point guards, guard some shooting guards, and be able to impact the game defensively and hopefully add something offensively, because that is something that the Lakers cannot afford to have, just multiple guys on the roster who aren't really adding too much offensively in terms of shooting, because you obviously have guys like Finney Smith and Rui Hachimura and Austin Reaves are gonna provide you some shooting. But there's some guys on the roster like Jared Vanderbilt and Mark Williams. They do give you other things, but they don't give you the shooting. So having another guy on the roster that doesn't really shoot the ball particularly well and doesn't give you any offensive value, then I can see why some people might not want a guy like Markelle Fultz. But I don't know. Maybe Rob Pelinka thinks elsewise. What do you guys think down below? Let us know in the comments of what do you think about a guy like Markelle Fultz. Do you think he can be someone that the Lakers can go after because of his, quickness and speed and some of the stuff he can do on point of attack defense? Or do you think Lakers should go after another one of these guards, maybe Lonnie Walker or Josh Richardson? I've seen Seth Curry if he is bought out. One of those guys. Let us know in the comments down below. And one more thing for us, there is about 89% of you guys who have recently watched your videos but are not yet subscribed to the channel. And if you guys want more of that Laker news, Laker updates, trade rumors, game recaps, just every and all things LA Lakers, you guys want to come right here to Lakers Digest so you don't miss any of that action. All right, I've been your host, Okechi Apakama, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.